So on the left side here, you have the monitor tab. This is where your renders are going to show up. Then you have the catalog tabs, and this is where all your different renders are being displayed if they're currently running or aborted or failed. This is where you're going to get all the information from. Then you have the render log. This is where you're going to read what is happening to your renders in real time. Here you have the Hydra viewer. This is where you're going to do most of your work. And here on the side, you have the parameters tab. This is where you're going to view the parameters, or also called properties, for each of your nodes. Then here you have the node graph. This is where you're going to do most of your core work. If you're familiar with Nuke, this is where you're going to do your node-based workflow or your node tree. Then on the side here, you have the Scene Explorer tab. As you can see, you have two different tabs in this tab. You have the blue one at the top, which is for USD native data that have been imported in the scene. So these remain USD native. And after that, at the bottom here, you have what is specific to Katana. So whatever you imported from other DCCs, they will be converted to Katana attributes, and they will show up in this scene, which is the scene graph, but revamped with more capabilities. Okay, so let's get started with the work. So first, we will create a node. If you don't know which node you would like to create, you can right-click on the node graph, and you'll have access to tons of nodes. And something to look for is in other to check if you have your Arnold nodes. If you don't have Arnold nodes, it's because you haven't launched your project from the batch file. It's probably that you open your project directly from the project itself by double clicking on it, or you open through the Katana vanilla version. So always make sure you launch your project, you launch your Katana first with the batch script, and then go into your work. Okay, and if you want to load your work, it's always open, and you just go and search for it. Then we will create a first node, which is going to be called PrimitiveCreate. To create a node, simply press Tab. You're going to have all these nodes popping up, and start typing the node you need. So PrimitiveCreate, PrimitiveCreate. And this node is going to be created. Just click on the one you want, and you'll have the node loaded. So right now you can see that you have nothing in the viewer, you have nothing in the parameters, you have nothing. You just created a node. But you do have two different flags on this node. So this one is the view flag. So this is where you are going to view the scene, the whole node graph tree from this input. So if you had 10 nodes and you want to see the whole 10 nodes, all the operations, everything that's happening, you would probably set the view flags at the bottom of your tree. Right now, we only have one node, so we're viewing from that. And you're like, okay, well, I created something, but I don't see it. Where is it? It's because Katana work with deferred loading, and this deferred loading system, it's only going to load whatever you have selected to load. So you have many ways to be selective about what you would like to view in the viewer. You can expand all, so Control++, and then it's going to show the primitive that you have created. Or if you would like to have even more control, and that's the one I rather use, especially in studios, if you have like hundreds of locations and you have a very complex scenes, and let's say you would just like to do your character light rig, and you just need one character and you don't want the whole scene to be displayed. Personally, I will just go and collapse this location. So what I could do is use the visibility working set column, which is this little icon here. And when I select it here, it's also selecting at the top here. So this is connected, this is synced. So if I do that and I simply click on it, well, nothing is happening. It's because below this location, the child location haven't been loaded as well. So a way to go around that is by shift clicking instead of just clicking. And if you're shift clicking, then everything below this location will be loaded in the scene. So always make sure you're shift clicking, and then it can be collapsed. It doesn't matter because everything below will be loaded. Okay, cool. But now, how do we know which properties are this node? What's happening? Can we have control over which primitive we are creating? And this is where we are going to use this other flag, the green flag there, which is going to load your properties. So if I'm looking at the properties of this geo, well, we can see that this is the location path. So it's going to go root world geo, and it's called primitive. And that's correct. It's right there. And then we have the different transform options. If you would like to do transformation and you want to be procedural and you don't want to, you want to always revert back, then I would suggest using a transform 3D node and then doing all your operations on that node. So this one remains intact, but you can also do it directly on the primitive if you know that this primitive is going to remain the same. So you have a list of different primitive you can choose from. You can go for a teapot, or you can go for a donut, or you can go for my favorite guy, which is the gnome. And I like to give it a name. Last time in class, it was Richard. So I will call it Richard again. Why not? And you see now that the name has changed in the hierarchy, and it is because I decided to give it a new name. And I could also click here and select in scene graph, and it would select Richard in the scene graph. And you can also rename the node. Let's say you would like to call it gnome. You can do that, and now the gnome has a new name. The gnome, the node has a new name as well. Okay, so now we have our little characters in, but how do we navigate in the viewer? Like, how do we control what I'm doing right now? How can we make it spin? So I will click on the viewer, press the space to go full screen, and you can press space and go back and space and space. So if you want to work full screen, just press space. And your best friend for controlling the viewer in Katana is the Alt key. So press Alt, left click, you will rotate. Middle mouse hold, you will pan left, right, top, bottom. And if you right click, you will zoom in on the gnome. Perfect. So now we will simply keep creating. So now we have our gnome. We know how this works. We can play with our viewer flag and with our property flag, and that's awesome. So now we are going to create a material for Richard, because Richard is kind of gray. So we will create a material with, I will go over this slower, with the NetworkMaterialCreate node. You could create material with a material node. I'm just going to show you the different nodes that we have for that. And you could add a shader, you could add an Arnold surface shader, and oh yay, you have like an Arnold surface shader in the scene. But we will not do that today. Okay, there it is. Standard surface. We will not use this way today because this is not what I want you to be familiar with. I really want you to get familiar with the NetworkMaterialCreate, because this is what they use in studios, and this is where you can build a very complex shading network. It will remind you of the hypershade in Maya, Don't be scared. It's quite easy to use once you get familiar with the nodes and how they operate and how you can iterate. And this is procedural and better in that sense. So we will create a network material create. So press tab, network material create. And now you can see that I have materials in the scene. That's great. That's awesome. But now I don't see the gnome anymore. So where did it go? If I click here, well, the gnome is back, but the material is not loaded. So a good way around that is to merge the two together. So we can do this with a merge node. So you can click on the arrow, create two inputs, and drag the outputs into the input. Or even simpler than that, if you're used to Nuke, simply shift click both and press M, and you will have the merge node created. Okay, awesome. So now if I view from the merge node, I will see the properties of the merge node, obviously, because this is what I'm looking at. I could rename those as primitive. And so you could see here that it's written primitive. If I knew how to type, that would be written primitive. And this is going to be NMC for Network Material Create. And you see here now that you have everything loaded in the scene. You have Richard and you have the material. Now let's work with the material itself. And so now we have on the node what we see as a network material, and we can rename this as a GNOME mat. And now you see that the material name has been changed in the Scene Explorer. You could also change the location if you wanted to be more precise. Let's say you had many network material create in the scene. If it would be like for the body, and you would have a different one for the skin, then you would just give different location like that. But for now, we're just going to keep it as root materials. Now we're going to dive in this node and we'll get some work done. So we will click on this arrow or just simply Control Enter it. So on this side here, you'll see the sidebar. And this is basically where you are going to plug your different components of your shading network. So you have Arnold surface. This is for your main shader. Your displacement will be connected here. If you were creating specific AOVs for your shading network, you could use that as well. And there are more functionalities, but to be honest, I don't think ever using them. So we will start to create our shading network. So the first node we will bring in, and the only node we will bring in, because this is the first course, so we'll keep it simple. It will be an Arnold shading node. So you can press tab, same thing as you would do. Make sure you are inside. If nothing is showing, make sure you press shift tab and select Arnold as the default renderer. So again, tab, Arnold, shading node. You could have created a standard surface as well. Would have been the faster route, but you can also use the Arnold shading node. And here we are going to select the node that we need. So it's going to be a standard surface. And now we need to make sure that our output is connected to the sidebar under the Arnold surface. Now this node, you're seeing all the parameters on the side here. And this is for your base or diffuse color. So you're gonna have your base color, your diffuse roughness, your metalness, and then so on for all the different components that are probably really used to see right now. So we'll add a base color. You can create the color you want. You can be creative. This time it's gonna be blue. I want this little baby. Oh no. Oh, that's blue. Okay, that's good. That's gonna be my blue. And Let's say I would like to get it really plasticky, or even like submetalness, I don't know. We can do that. Okay. Now we have created a material. That's awesome. Oh, if you were inside and you want to get out, like I click on this little house there to go to root. And now we have created a material and you're like, cool, but I don't see it there. What happened? Well, you need to assign it to your model. So a way to do that will be by creating a MaterialAssign node and assigning it to your model. So we will create another node. So we press tab, start typing MaterialAssign, always type what you need, and then we are going to plug it. So it's going to be quite easy. This node is very simple. You have this area. This is where you're going to add the path of your model. You could also add collections or customs. We won't go through that today, but it is a possibility. And this is the material that you will assign to this model. So if you have a material already present in the scene, and you should, because the MaterialAssign node is meant to assign material already present in the scene, you will simply click on it from the scene graph, middle mouse drag, and drop over this field location. So now we have the material that is already brought in. And same thing, now we are going to bring Richard, select, middle mouse drag, and drop over the add statements. And now we have the material assigned to Richard. And you could also make use of these little arrows. And you could see it being displayed in the scene graph. You could also find and display the different location, and they would pop up in the viewer as well for visual, some visual clues of what has been selected. Now we are going to create a camera, and this is a camera we want to render from. To create our camera, same thing as the NetworkMaterialCreate node, we will press tab and merge this CameraCreate node into the scene. So we will go ahead, show you better, click on the arrow, create a new input, and go over the CameraCreate node. If you like naming stuff, of course, you can go and rename this one and call it camera. Nice. So now we have a camera. Nice, that's good. I'm viewing from the merge node, because if you're viewing from here, you will see your camera, the one that is just the camera that you have created, but you will not be able to see your model from it. So please view it from the merge node. And now we have our camera. Let's look at the parameters of that node. So we have the name. Okay, cool. We have a camera in the scene. We can see it here. If I don't want to see it, I could just go and be specific about what I want to view. I can say, okay, I want to view that. I want to view this as well. If I would like to do live render updates, it's with this column. I'll go a little more in detail about that later on. And now I'm like, okay, I would like to change the field of view maybe. So let's view through this camera. And how do we view from this camera? Well, we will use this little camera icon, click on root world camera, and we will simply zoom out from the camera. And you can position it using the Alt key, the same way you would navigate in the viewer. And you can change a field of view and see the result. So let's put it to 20, and you can really frame it as you want. If you want to have a little more, and you want your camera angle to be a little more dramatic, there. Okay, cool. So once you're happy with positioning your camera, you can simply go and set the make interactive to no. And now if you try to move, it won't move anymore. So this is how you lock a camera in Katana. In make interactive, yes, you can move it. If you set it to no, it is locked. You can no longer move your camera. But if you go in perspective cam, oh, you can definitely keep working. These are always available for playing around with. So I will view from my camera. Nice. So now we have assigned the material. We have created a new render cam. We are ready for our lighting. So the lighting is always going to happen in a very specific node, which is the GafferThree node. And that node is not just your regular node. It is a super tool that's been shipped with Katana. So I'll show you what I mean by super tool. So we're going to press tab and type GafferThree. And this node is going to be your best friend if you are a lighter in studio. At what time? At one time, not what time, but okay. And then you have this here, which is the area where you're going to do most of your work. You can sync the selection in and out. So it means that whatever you are selecting in this will be connected and synced with the scene graph. And now I am going to create a light. Make sure you're not using the HDRI. Please use the Arnold skydome light, because if you use this one, it's going to expect a texture file and it's going to error out. So Arnold skydome light is the way to go. And here you can just play with the different components of that node. You can also modify it from the top here. You can mute, you can solo those lights. You can change the color. So if you would like to have a more ambient, sunny, warm weather, you can go with a low whitish color. You can tone it down if it's too strong, and you can play with the different parameters of that node. You have the object, the light linking is here as well. But we'll go over that node a little more in detail as during the whole session. If I control enter on that node, you'll see that all these nodes are created. And this is what I was meaning by super tool. The GafferThree is not just a simple node. It is a package of different nodes. And all of this is happening behind the scene for you to have control over all those lights. Okay, so now we can create a render settings node. And this is where we are going to set the resolution and the render cam we are going to use in our renders. So here we will set the render, which is Arnold. I will keep the resolution at a square 512 because I'm not going to do a very complex scene. You can change it if you want. The camera should be the one by default, but if I would have changed the name to something else, let's say render cam, then I would make sure that this render cam is also here, because otherwise it's gonna error out. Same thing if you change the name of anything in your scene. If you change the name of Richard and then you forget to change it back in the MaterialAssign node, this node is going to expect this name and this path. So if the path is different, it's going to error out in your renders and it's going to fail. So always make sure that you remain consistent, because these are all operations and they're dependent of the information you are feeding into it. And those data, they need to remain the same across your whole node graph. So you can go back and debug each of them and making sure that all your naming for your materials, your primitive, for your camera is consistent across your nodes below. Because these nodes, they inherit from all the information above. And again, skydome light, do not use a HDRI light, just the skydome. Make sure your render cam is the right one. Your renderer is Arnold. Here you can adjust height to match resolution if there is discrepancies in your render, and you can use your render. You could also view through light if you wanted to. This is where you would shutter open and close. This is where you would turn off your motion blur if you had a full scene to render from. This is where you will select your AOVs. We will go over AOVs in the next and upcoming classes. And here we can add the last node, which is the render node, but we're not going to do any disk render today, so don't worry about it. And we can start to render. If you would like to do some test render, actually, you must do some test render because I'm expecting this scene to be to render and be capable of rendering. So I will simply select preview render. And you see that things are working. You can see that things are rendering, the bar is loading, and then you see that it's like all your progress is being updated in real time. And if I go in the catalog tab, you can see that I only have one render. And if I go in the monitor tab, sorry, you will see that my character is here. That's awesome. You can press F to go back. Let's say I would like to do a live render. Well, I need to decide what I would like to update. So if I'm playing with my geo and I am changing the lights intensity, then I would probably select light and geo to make sure that it is getting updated. So now I am going to start a live render. Again, right click, live render. And you can see that it's going to render. Another thing I could be using for doing a live render would be to make use of this here. And now I have this little monitor tab directly in my viewer. And that's kind of nice. If I would like to have it functional on my perspective cam and not just my render cam, I could just do this. And now it's going to render in full time. And now I can play and check all the different angles of my model. So that's it. And if I would like to modify the lighting and just go a little crazy, you can see that it's updating in real time. So I'm gonna overblown it. And if you want to cancel your renders, you can see that you can cancel the current render here by pressing escape or shift escape to stop the updates for all the live renders. And then after here, you can see in my catalog tab that I have those two different renders that are available to view at any time. So if I left click on here and right click on this one, now I have a front and back image. So if I would like to compare between the two of them, I can go and use the swipe line and view my previous result compared to my new result. And I can see how it's different. So I can always set the front and back by left clicking and right clicking. And I can have also lots of information in this catalog tab. And we'll go over that more in details in the course as well. So that's it for your simple scene. At your submission, make sure that your render is working. I'm expecting to see a PrimitiveCreate node, a NetworkMaterialCreate node, a camera. I want all of this to be merged together. I want the material to be assigned properly. I want a skydome light to be created and used in the scene. A render settings node with the camera name and the renderer, and the resolution is up to you. And just a render node to finalize the scene.